All righty, cool. Well, team, welcome to the Standard Podcast, where we raise the bar, we rebuild the culture, and call out the lies or misconceptions that nobody else will. This is a motivation. This is a movement. I'm Thomas Rowe, I'm Thomas Rowe, and today we're with my co-host, Aaron Charles, and today we're sitting down with Justin Brashear, a former collegiate and professional baseball player who now works exclusively with athletes as an attorney, advisor, and agent. Justin is an NFLPA certified contract advisor and the founder of College Athlete Consulting, a platform designed to educate and empower the next generation of athletes. Justin wrote the book, literally, on athlete-agent relationships. His book, Substance Over Sizzle, is the starting point for any athlete looking to build a healthy agent-athlete relationship and take control of their career trajectory. He's also the host of Now It's Legal, a sports law podcast, where he breaks down the legal and business sides of sports that most athletes never learn until it's too late. What makes Justin unique is that he's lived both sides. He's played the game at the collegiate and professional level and now represents athletes who are navigating the same journey. He understands the pressure, the promise, and the pitfalls. And he's committed to making sure the next generation of athletes don't get taken advantage of. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Standard Podcast. Justin, we're super stoked to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for letting me be here. It's an honor to be on this show, and I've enjoyed getting to know you guys, and so I look forward to it.
Right on. So let's jump right in. You played college and professional baseball, and now you're working as an attorney, advisor, agent, exclusively with athletes. What does raising the standard mean to you and with the work that you're doing?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that, largely, what athletes deal with these days is not a lack of information. It's more of an abundance of misinformation. And so what we really predicate ourselves on and what we're trying to do in the representation space is really more educate people and empower people to understand what is out there for them, the right questions for them to ask, the things to look for, the green flags, the red flags, and even sometimes the beige flags. But just giving them an opportunity to really understand, what that relationship should look like. And it's not one where it's, I'm the person who's been there and done that and lived it, and I have all the education and experience, and I'm going to tell you what to do. It's, hey, we're going to go through this process together. We're going to operate with extreme honesty and transparency. You're going to guide the ship. I'm just going to help you get all the information you need to help put you on the right course.
Right on.
So for us, it's about, athletes have long time, for a long time been told to shut up and play ball. And nowadays, especially with the advent of NIL, there's so many more opportunities for young players to come along and establish themselves as business people, as entrepreneurs, as community members, before they ever play a down or face a pitch in the batter's box or take a free throw. Just gives them an opportunity to sort of get out there.
Right on, no doubt. And what would you say is the biggest lie that you feel the culture of the sports industry has sold athletes about agents, contracts, and protecting their interests?
I think the biggest lie that I see repeated is that the grass is greener somewhere else.
Sure.
The transfer portal is certainly something that is a wonderful thing when used correctly. But I've seen far too many athletes be led into the portal with bad information, misinformation, clickbait. This is what these numbers actually are, with people that don't know what they're talking about, people that don't understand how a roster is actually built, and don't understand the in college sports, the academic piece behind it. It's important to graduate, because if you don't graduate, then what's the rest of your life going to be like when you're done playing? So
sure. For
us, I think that's the really big important thing, is that we want to make sure that, athletes make decisions for themselves, and those decisions are based on real good, solid information.
Right on. You also wrote a book, Substance Over Sizzle. What does that title mean, and why did you feel it was important to write the book for athletes?
Yeah, thank you for that. So it was a fun project. I was approached by a publishing company, and and really started working through it. I didn't have any real idea where it was going to go when we got started with the project, but it sort of evolved alongside of my preparations for, representation and transfer portal. But reality, man, looking back on my career, like I was a blue chip recruit coming out of high school. I played. I could have gone anywhere in the country, and so I was set through a lot of recruiting pitches. I sat through a lot of agency pitches. I hired an agency. I fired an agency. I hired another agency, and so I think that besides my own personal experiences, watching teammates go through things. The industry, again, going back to the lie, right? It's always the grass is greener somewhere else.
Sure.
The reality is that there's a lot of what we call sizzle, right? Like the pitch decks and the cool logos and the cool gear that guys get and the swag bags that get sent out for, camp or whatever it is. Those things are great, right? But the reality is your agent actually doing something to further your career on the field, off the field? Are they handling things in your personal life? Or are they using your skill set as a player to make themselves look good? And that's really where the question began, because so many times, we get caught up in situations where we talk to young athletes and the ones that we're fortunate enough to represent, like they get that, they get that we care. They get that we are, we're strategic business partners with them, and it's not sizzle, like if I have several players who were in with this massive polar vortex that came through, several players that are in places that were snowed under, and I was dead serious about bringing generators to them or sending food to them or whatever it was. And I think that's something that's important. And I think it's, when you go back and look at a career after you played and you think about the times that, my agent was there. My agent was there when I got married. That was a big deal for me. My agent was there, when I got released and had opportunity provided for me. And my agent was there for me when I didn't even know he was there for me, right? So he negotiated a deal that got me – I left school early, so he had the rest of my school paid for. So I graduated from college for $700,
Wow.
Those kinds of things are informative into my life as an agent now based on what I went through in the past. And so those things are, like I said, that's the substance behind the relationship that's really there. The sizzle is just when you come in and you have a really fancy pitch deck, or you have a fancy logo or something, you send somebody, all kinds of gifts and stuff like that. That's nice, but are you actually doing your job? And so
Sure.
The name of the book kind of evolved. It started out, my initial thought was the concept of no wild pitches. So when I was playing ball, I was fortunate to play for Coach Mike Bianco at Ole Miss, and I was a catcher, so he was extremely hard on us. And he had this theory that there's no such thing as a wild pitch. So that means, if a runner is on base and a ball gets behind the catcher and the runner takes it another base, it's either going to be a pass ball, which is the catcher's fault, or it's a wild pitch, which is the pitcher's fault.
Right.
And under Coach Bianco's mindset, everything that got past you is your fault. And so it was an accountability thing. It was a preparation thing. It was a communication thing. And, all those things are very much, I think, have made me into the person I am. They made me into the player that I was. And I think that process of going through that, the substance behind some of those opportunities and experiences, has allowed me to have a much better second career than I had as a first career. My first career was great. I played longer than most people play. I was drafted twice. I got to do a lot of things in the game of baseball that not many people get to do. But my second career has been a lot better. And so the idea behind the book was really to bring that to light and to allow young athletes the opportunity to read it in their own space and time, and to empower themselves to know that you're allowed to ask questions on your own behalf. You're allowed to make sure that you're comfortable with the person that you are hiring to go out and to try to help you, achieve your career goals and dreams. So that was really the basis behind it. And I think it goes back to the main issue I see. I see too many young people get taken advantage of and lied to with bad information,
Sure.
and whether it's ill-intentioned or not, it's irrelevant. If, once the cat's out of the bag, it's done. So it was really important. I think it's also really important for me, Tom, to help people understand, the transfer portal. If you look at the stats on the transfer portal right now, there are thousands of players who no longer are playing football.
That's right.
Because they didn't do the work they needed to do, or they trusted someone to do the work and that wasn't done properly, or whatever reason is. But the reality is, you need to have that information. That's substantial information you need to have before you make that type of decision. And that concept applies to everything you do in life. So, it's a life lesson that's given through the lens of sport and a little bit of some fun stories.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron for segment 2, which is identity and legacy. Aaron, take it away.
Thank you.
Hey, Justin. I want to know who Justin is beyond all the accolades, everything that we've talked about. Just who are you and what are the most important values to you?
So thank you. I'm a child of God, first of all. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a family man. I really, that's why I do the things I do. As a lawyer, I was successful, but it got me to a point where I wasn't really there mentally or spiritually or emotionally like I needed to be for my family. And so I decided to sort of get away from that. I operate with extreme transparency and integrity. I like to build teams. I like to work with people. I actually get a lot of satisfaction watching other people accomplish things. And I like to help them. I like to help them do that. So, I'm a believer in the good in the world. I'm a believer in the opportunity that sport brings to people. And I'm very fortunate and very blessed and very humbled to be in the position I'm in.
That's awesome. I love that. I have the same desire as I love seeing other people win. It's so fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about you is you've lived both sides. So as an athlete, you've navigated the system, and as an advisor, you're helping athletes navigate the system as well. So what does legacy beyond contracts and deals mean to you for these athletes?
I said this not long ago, and I think it's probably the easiest way to say it. Like, I want to take care of the grandchildren that my clients don't know about yet. So I want to make sure that these young people are understanding the opportunities they have placed in front of them right now to set the course and trajectory for their life. And if done correctly, their grandkids may never have to worry about paying for college or have to worry about, little things that go on. That's just a way that the sport industry is these days, the kind of money that can be earned. But then it's not only about that, it's about retaining it, and it's about putting it to use for your family. And a lot of what I do with the athletes I work with, I do in my own personal life. Both of my children have college savings funds. They both have 401ks or IRAs, whatever. I don't know. Actually, I send the money to my investment people and trust them to do their jobs. But they're taken care of, right? And so I'm working for them right now. And for me, that's what it's about. I also really like to work with athletes who like to make their communities better, whether it's their hometown or wherever they're playing. We want to make a difference, and we want to leave an impact wherever we go. So, I encourage my clients to read to the schools, go to the churches, find the nonprofits, find the food banks, whatever it is, and donate time, talent, treasure, whatever, and be a part of the community. Because again, the game is great, but the game ends for everybody. And so you have to have some of that humanity that is built in. And, I think back about my favorite messages even now are the ones I get randomly on, Instagram or whatever. And it's a kid that, when I played 20 some odd years ago, his mom was like, "Hey, here's a picture. You signed this autograph for my kid," and it made his day. It was a Tuesday for me, but for that kid, it meant a lot. And so, having experienced that and then being able to turn around and see these young people that I'm fortunate to work with now going through that again, it's really fun to be able to highlight those opportunities for them and say, "Hey man, like, this is a big deal for these kids. This is something that they're going to remember forever." And so, legacy, again, like I said, is about the next generation. It's about who's coming behind you and leaving something better than you found it.
That's awesome. I love that. So your platform's called College Athlete Consulting, and your mission is to educate and then empower the next generation of athletes. Mm-hmm. I would love for you to tell our audience what separates athletes from those that succeed and maybe those that don't.
I think the most important telling factor in whether an athlete's going to have success is the 6 inches between their ears. every time, every level you go up, the game's going to get faster. The people that you play against are going to get stronger. They're going to play more competitively. It's going to be tighter. It's going to be cleaner. But it's about how you can prepare, how you can overcome the adversity, how you can deal with some of the you go from being the guy or the star player, the girl, her, right, on your team. You go to college, you may be the backup for a couple of years, and you go to pro ball, you may be, maybe a couple of years before you actually make it. You have to be mentally tough enough to deal with that. You have to continue to treat yourself and prepare like a professional. And so I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't think about, because everyone's so focused on, the physical side. I want to get faster. I want to get stronger. I want to get quicker. That's all necessary. But I think what truly separates elite athletes and elite performers more so than elite athletes is their mental capacity to continue to move past the adversity they're going to deal with. Like, I represent NFL caliber offensive linemen. That is a 100% injury rate position group, right? So for us, it's, the preparation of our athletes to get their bodies in a position where they're flexible, they're strong in a lot of ways. Their body is hydrated, their body is rested, their body is well nourished, and then they go play the game, and they play the game in a way where they're the ones that are bringing the violence to the opponent, right? And then after the game, we go straight into recovery. We go straight into film. We go straight into getting better and learning from what we learned, learning from the experience we had on Saturdays and Sundays. And that mentality carries over every week and every month and every year. Those guys get better and better and better. And so I think the biggest thing for athletes these days, like I said, it's the 6 inches between your ears. And that's warfare most of the time for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. I think that's the hardest game, I think, for all of us to master. What's one truth that you wish every athlete, parent, or coach, I think, just understood about, I think, the landscape of athletics today?
That's a great question. I think the reality is, and I think people know this, but when you're building a team, whether it's from a coach that's recruiting players, or the player that's trying to put people around them, or the parents who are concerned about the people who are around the athletes, I think that inherently most people are going to do what's in their own subjective best interest. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that if you understand that going into it, and you figure out a way where your subjective best interest aligns with the subjective best interest of the people that you're working with or playing for, you're going to have a much better relationship and experience throughout that process.
That's awesome. That's such a great answer. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Thomas.
Right on, Justin. Okay, we're getting into segment 3, the advice across all stages. So if you can sit down with yourself as a young athlete navigating the recruiting and professional process, what do you wish someone had told you about agents, contracts, and protecting your interests?
Man, that is a great question. Not all agents are the same.
Okay.
Not all agents are bad. And I think that the most important thing, it kind of goes back to what I just told Aaron, is that, you have to make sure that the vision and the process with the people that you're going to work with are going to align. And so it's very difficult in the agency process, particularly on the NFL side, where you're trying to build relationships with players over a 3 to 4 month window when they're in the middle of playing their season. And you're trying to build a relationship of trust and of understanding, because you are now working together to establish someone's career at the next level, to help them achieve a goal and a dream. And it relies on a very trustworthy relationship. I think if I could go back as a player, I would probably tell myself the most important thing. And look, Coach Bianca is one of my favorite people of all time. I love him to death. I'm actually very thankful there was not a transfer portal when I was in college, because it forced me to stay through some adversity. But if I could go back, I sat the bench for 2 years pretty much. I was a backup. I had to earn my right to be there, and I did. But I think that if I would have done it now, I would have probably gone the JUCO route, where I could have played. I could have guaranteed that I was going to play every day, because that way you can continue to work on your skills. you can't do, I mean, you can do a lot in practice. You can do a lot in the film, you can do a lot in the weight room. You can't do as much as if you're actually playing on the field, right? So go somewhere where you're going to play, give yourself opportunity to develop as a player, as a person, and then let things happen as they're supposed to. I was in such a hurry as a player, and I think that's got a lot to do with sort of where I came from, right? Like I came from a championship environment in high school. I played for Team USA, won a gold medal. Go to college, we're winning a lot of games. And for me, it was always like the logical next step was to just get to the next level.
Yep. When
the reality is I should have enjoyed the process a little bit more. I should have slowed down, taken my time and really paid more attention. And so that's a lot of those lessons, Tom, are what I try to help the players that I work with nowadays, right? Like, please don't make the same mistakes I did. And like I said, I don't have any complaints about my career. I had a phenomenal career, but I didn't achieve the ultimate goal. And I think a lot of that was largely because of the mental incapacities and the rushing through things and not really paying attention to the things that really matter. Again, going back to the substance over style thing. I mean, the substance over sizzle thing, right? Same concept there is, I think that's probably what I would tell myself as a younger player. That's probably pretty much why I wrote the book.
That's badass, because that is so true that both Aaron and I experienced that as well, is we want athletes to enjoy the process. Everyone is in such a hurry to get to the next level. And what's interesting is what the next level is for you could be something entirely different from me. So staying close to what your athletes and families are looking for is awesome.
And on top of that too, I think that I have a lot of respect, a tremendous amount of respect for athletes who understand that, the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA may not be for them. Right. And their ultimate level is college sports. And I think that's a beautiful and wonderful thing. I had several teammates who were like that in college, and I think they had a much better experience than a lot of us who were trying to get to the big leagues. And so, and nowadays in college sports, there's so much opportunity, not only from, NIL and revenue sharing, but there's so much exposure to the athlete now that, again, a lot of what we talk about is like, hey, if this NFL thing doesn't work out, let's put you, when you're thinking about schools, let's find the best alumni network, or let's find the best on-campus ministry. Let's find the things that really matter to you as a human being. Let's find those. Let's highlight those, because it's going to make your experience better as a player. If it doesn't work out, if you're part of the 99.9% of people who play football that don't get to play in the NFL, then you're going to need to fall back on these experiences, these opportunities around you that are not always there in other places. And so, again, slowing down, realizing what's out there, being more open and available for some of these sort of conversations in the community, I think is a huge advantage for college athletes today.
No question. You mentioned substance over sizzle again, and I really want our audience to understand this, because it's almost like an owner's manual. You wrote substance over sizzle as a starting point for building healthy athlete-agent relationships. What do you think are the red flags athletes should watch out for?
Well, it's in the book. I'll give you some of it. I think that the number one thing for me is like when I look at a situation, and I'm not trying to knock this at all. Like let's be clear about this. I have a lot of friends who do, I do it. I take pictures with the players. I'm on the field. I do the thing too. I think when it turns into this is the player that we represent, but that player is more of an asset for us than we are for them, that is a red flag for me.
Got it.
So you see situations where, an agency is going to pump out all the players that they represent, and they're never going to tell you anything else besides that like flashy situation right there. Yeah, they're going to go on the field, they're going to take the picture, they're going to post it immediately. I'd rather send that to the kid's mom. Say, hey, I'm really proud of him, right? He's worked hard to achieve this goal. This is something that's special, and it's something for your family. I'm thankful that I was available and I was able to be a part of that process for him. A little different, right? Like still taking pictures, still there, doing the same thing, having fun, enjoying the game, enjoying the work. But what you do with it is a little different. I think that one of the first things I would ask if I was someone who was looking for an agent is I would want to know background. I would want to know credentials. I would want to know education. I would want to know certifications and are you insured? Are you licensed? Are you bonded? I think those things matter more than who you represent or who you have represented in the past. because every player's circumstance is different.
Sure.
It's great to know that people have had opportunities in the draft or, gone through free agency or whatever. That's fantastic. But that player that's sitting there, hasn't been through the draft yet, hasn't been through free agency yet. Like their situation, their book's still being written, right? I think what matters there is, like, are you of sufficient, background to understand the full concept of what's going on? Can you communicate with me clearly enough to understand my goals as a player and what my family's looking for here? And then are you capable of executing it, right? Like, it's a multi-step process. And I think that if someone's dodging the questions about their education, about their background, and they're shifting it back into, oh, well, look what we did for X player here or X player there, great. But that's a red flag to me.
Sure. No question. All right, let's get into segment 4, the rapid fire round. We're going to turn it back over to Aaron. Aaron, go ahead and take it away.
Can't hear you.
You're on mute.
You're
Nope. Can't hear you. Let's try it one more time. All right, I'm going to take it. Here you go, Justin. A little curveball for you.
It's okay. I prefer hitting fastballs, man.
All right, I'm going to send you a rope. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to fire off a word or a sentence to you and just go ahead and kind of free for all finish it out. Discipline equals
preparation. I think it equals commitment, and it takes sacrifice.
Okay. Leadership equals
man, you got to be willing to do what you ask people to do for you. Or
right
I think leading from the front, is important rather than leading from behind. I used to, when I was in really starting my practice, my law practice, and even before when I was practicing law, I would run, my team of paralegals and whatever, and I wouldn't ask them to go get something off the printer or send a fax. I would go do it. I took the trash out. I would work on the weekends if I had to, and I would try to make their life better. But I think it takes. It's more of a push than a pull, right?
Awesome. Faith equals
everything.
Everything. Right on.
Yeah, everything, man. I look at there's not a day that goes by that I don't try to spend a substantial amount of time in prayer and thinking about really focusing on gratitude, the things that I'm really fortunate to have. I look at my life and again, like from an achievement and accomplishment standpoint, I'm very proud of what it is. I've still got work to do, but, I go home to a beautiful wife and 2 healthy children. I've got a roof on my head and food on my table. Yeah, I'm a very lucky man. And I'm faithful and I'm appreciative that what's coming in the future is going to be even better than what I've experienced already.
That's awesome. Legacy equals
leaving it better than you found it.
Right on.
I mean, that's from the time I grew up, the first time I went to a cattle ranch when I was a kid, riding the 4-wheelers or whatever, and you go through the gates and you open a gate and you leave a gate open, the cows are getting out, and that's a problem,
Right.
So you have to leave it better than you found it. If the gate's barely closed, you better lock that sucker up. If the cows don't have hay, you better go give them a bale. You got to leave it better than you found it.
What is one thing you would never compromise on?
The truth.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. I think that people need to know that, and I go back to my experience as a player. Like when I got released from my contract, I'll never forget that conversation. And I'll never forget that. I tell you this, I'll never forget the hard conversations I had as an athlete.
Right.
I remember when Coach Bianco, we went through some things and talking about my position there at Ole Miss and what it was going through. And, he distinctly told me, hey, you're one of our best players, like physically talented players, but you're not one of our best 9 players as a group. Like that's interesting to hear as a kid, right? As a 19-year-old kid, you got to figure out what that means and put it in place and continue to work. When I got released from my professional contract, they just said, look, man, you were a consummate professional in everything you did. This is a numbers game. And you can do one of 2 things. You can say, screw you guys, I'm going to go play for another team and show you, or you can turn the page and go live the rest of your life.
Right.
And I respect that conversation still to this day, because if I'd have been lied to, I would have maybe chased something that wasn't real. you
Sure.
know? And so to realize that, you know, what it was important to me. So I'll never sacrifice the truth.
Right on. And what's one message you put on a billboard for athletes about protecting themselves? What is one message you put on that billboard?
Educate yourself.
Got it.
Yeah, you're smart. I mean, look, you go to school, right? At least at bare minimum, you're going to college somewhere. You have very smart people that are around you. You have people in the building that generally care about you as an individual, whether they're your coaches or your academic people or your teammates or the trainers. Talk to people. Understand what goes on in the greater ecosystem around you, right? Understand who the people are that are coming in the building and what are they coming in there for. You know, make friends with the equipment manager, make friends with the trainer, make friends with the, you know, like educate yourself on a bigger picture, because once the game's over, those people are going to be part of your life still. I mean, one of my best friends to this day was an equipment manager at Ole Miss.
That's awesome.
We talk regularly. So, you know, had I been just so focused on playing baseball and not worrying about meeting people, I wouldn't have, my life would not be as you know, enriched because of him.
Right on. All right. From rapid fire to the hot seat, what are Justin's top 3 sports movies of all time?
Man. Oh, I gotta go with The Sandlot at the top.
Okay.
That was something I grew up on, man. I watched The Sandlot all the time. It was fantastic. You know, I'm trying to get my son, he's 4. We're starting to kind of get into that. I think I grew up on The Little Giants, was a great one too. And then, man, maybe the Mighty Ducks trilogy. I gotta get Gordon Bombay in there too.
Right on. Justin, thank you so much for your time. But before we let you go, where can people get a hold of you, whether it's a website, an email, or anything?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. I have a personal Instagram, JS Brashear. College Athlete Consultant is also on Instagram, www.collegeathleteconsulting.com. Best places to get me is one of those.
Right on. And team, Substance Over Sizzle is available on Amazon. Justin, you're a total rock star. We really appreciate you sharing your time and your truth. And if this conversation challenged you, inspired you, and made you think differently, share it, team. Send it to an athlete signing their first contract, a parent trying to protect their kid, a coach helping athletes navigate representation. This is the Standard Podcast. This is a movement that only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, truth endures. Let's raise the bar. Let's rebuild the culture. Let's become the standard. We'll see you next time. Justin, Aaron, thank you so much for your time. Really super appreciate it.
Love it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thanks so much. Awesome. Aaron, thank you. You're still recording there?